Assalamu alaikum. Hello, how my young lovely gentlemen and my young ladies. Lovely to see you as usual. So we'll be continuing with our last story. If you remember, the character was Munni, deliberately named Tiny, from a very tiny village in India. Kritam, yes, was the name of the village. And a very simple, humble, destitute fellow with just 2 goats, right? So where were we? They don't have much at home to eat. So his wife says, you go and I'll somehow make some food. You can't have your favorite drumsticks, but I'll try to do something. So then off he goes, and he's sitting at the crossroads at the base of a carved horse, a beautiful horse, which has very religious significance. So let's see what happens next. As he was sitting, he saw, he suddenly looked up and cried, okay, all right. Okay, he noticed now a new sort of vehicle coming down at full speed. It looked both like a motor car and a bus. He used to be intrigued by the novelty of such spectacles, but not as much now, and he took it all casually and described to his wife later in the day. Today, while he observed the yellow vehicle coming down, he was wondering how to describe it later when it sputtered and stopped in front of him. A red-faced foreigner, a colonial theme comes in, who had been driving it, got down and went round it, stooping, looking and poking under the vehicle. Then he straightened himself up, looked at the dashboard, stared at Munni's direction and approached him. Excuse me, is there a gas station nearby? Do I have to wait until another car comes? And then he suddenly looked up at the clay horse where Munni was sitting and cried, marvelous! Without competing, Munni felt he should get up and run away, and cursed his age because he could not run anymore. And the warning was ringing in his head that they should be aware and careful of a khaki uniform. So the rest man wore khaki clothes, evidently a policeman or a soldier. And he thought, he will chase or shoot if I start running. Sometimes dogs chase only those who run. Oh, Shiva, protect me. And here comes their God. Yes, when we are feeling helpless, scared and lost, all that feeling, fear, evokes a prayer. And he wondered, I don't know why this man should be after me. Meanwhile, the foreigner cried, marvelous, again nodding his head. He paced around the statue with his eyes fixed on it. Munni sat frozen for a while, then fidgeted and tried to edge away. Now, the other man suddenly pressed his palm together in a salute and smiled and said, Namaste, Namaste. He pressed his palms, the Indian greeting. At which the Munni spoke the only English expression he had learned, yes, no. Having exhausted his English vocabulary, he started in Tamil. My name is Munni, these 2 goats are mine, and things. He just started mumbling. He rolled his eyes and shuddered at the thought of evil-minded men and women peopling his village. The foreigner faithfully looked in the direction indicated by Munni's fingers, gazed for a while at the 2 goats, and then, suddenly remembering then he took out his silver cigarette case and lit a cigarette, and then remembering the courtesies, so he offered his cigarette and said, do you smoke? Munni answered, yes, no, whereupon the red-faced man took a cigarette and gave it to Munni, who received it with surprise, having had no offer of a smoke from anyone for years now. Those days were gone. Nowadays, he was not able to find even matches, let alone bhang. Right? He'd always wanted to smoke a cigarette. Only once had the shopman given him one credit. All right, then we see what happens. Munni drew a deep puff and started coughing. It was racking, no doubt, but extremely present. The cigarette, the smoke. And then he thought no need to run away from a man who gave him such a potent smoke. His head was reeling from the effect of one of those stock American cigarettes made with roasted tobacco. The man told him in English, of course, "I come from New York," and took out a card from his wallet. Munni shrank away from the card. Perhaps he was trying to present a warrant or arrest him. Oof. He remembered, beware of khakis. One part of his mind warned again. And take all the cigarettes or bhang is offered, but don't get caught. Beware of khaki again. So his mind was ringing with this sound. He wished he won 70 because he could not run, and he could not ward off this trouble by talk or walk. So he started talking in his Tamil language, gushed through. Okay, and it was like an unimpeded flow. He went on and on and on. And then he said, "Before God, Sir Bhagwan, who sees everything, I tell you, sir, that we know nothing of the previous murder case." He still thinks that he's a detective or he's been sent by police because he was wearing a khaki color pant and trousers. Okay, I'm sure now just figuring out of the Tamil, look at the lack of communication, but they're trying their best to communicate and interpret it the way they want to. So I'm sure when this horse was made, said the red man, and smiled. Munni reacted to the relaxed atmosphere by smiling himself and pleaded, "Please go away, sir, I know nothing." Okay, he's still scared because recently there had been a murder and they had found a mutilated body somewhere around here, and still they had not found the murderer. Okay, now the red man implored, please, I'll speak slowly. Please try to understand me. Can't you understand even a simple word of English? Everyone in this country seems to know English." Oh God. Munni made some indistinct sounds in his throat and shook his head. Encouraged, the other went on to explain at length. Then what happened? He told the khaki man, what did he start talking about? "Oh, last year was the hottest summer in history, and I was working in shirt sleeves in my office on the 40th floor of the Empire State Building." He's bragging and boasting, too full of himself, right? In front of Asians. "You must have heard of the power failure, and there I was stuck for 4 hours. No elevator, no air conditioning. All the way in the train I kept thinking, and the minute I reached home in Connecticut, I told my wife Ruth, we will visit India this winter. It's time to look at other civilizations." So they are not used to power failures and the heat and the exhaustion, right? So he thought they should explore India, because there they had heard they had all these problems, which we still do. Munni looked reflective at the end of his long conversation and said, yes, no again, right? Because he was not sure what he was talking about. He said, "When I was this high, a foot high, I heard my uncle say." No one can tell what he was planning to say, as the other interrupted him at this stage to ask, "Boy, what is the secret of your teeth? How old are you?" The old man forgot what he had started to say and remarked, "Sometimes we lose our cattle, jackals or cheetahs may carry them, but sometimes it is just theft from over in the next village. Our priest at the temple can see in the camphor flame the face of the thief, and when he's caught." So the religion is such an important element, essential, important, constituent part of the life. Everything kind of settles around the religion, the rituals, the beliefs, and the faith. The old man now understood, okay, let's see, isn't this, okay, now the Englishman, the American guy is saying, hey, is there no one, absolutely no one here to translate for me? Because Munni was mumbling and going on in his Tamil and he couldn't understand a word. Oh God, he looked up and down the road which was deserted in this hot afternoon. A sudden gust of wind churned up the dust and dead leaves on the roadside into a ghostly column and propelled it towards the mountain road. The stranger, almost pinioned, back to the statue and asked, isn't this statue yours? Why don't you sell it to me? The old man now understood the reference to the horse, thought for a second and said in his language, I was an urchin this high when I heard my grandfather explain this horse and warrior, and he was explained by his grandfather, then his grandfather. So this statue had been there for generations. The other man interrupted him with, I don't want to seem to have stopped here for nothing. I'll offer you good price for this, he said, indicating the horse. He had concluded without the least doubt that Munni owned this horse. So they're so full of confidence and they just believe what they want to believe and they concoct that story, right? Perhaps he guessed by the way he sat at its pedestal like other souvenir sellers in this country presiding over their wares. Munni followed the man's eyes and pointing fingers and dimly understood the subject matter. And feeling relieved that he was not talking about that murder, said again enthusiastically, I was this high when my grandfather told me about this horse and the warrior. And even my grandfather was a child when he heard it from his grandfather. Of the Tamil that Munni spoke was stimulating even as pure sound, and the foreigner listened with fascination. It's a fascination with exotic languages, exotic people and souvenirs. Your language sounds wonderful. I get a kick out of every word you utter here, but you don't have to waste your breath in sales talk. I appreciate the article. You don't have to explain its points. And the old man, Munni, he just went on and on and on. He's saying whatever he thinks he's understanding. I never went to school in those days. Only Brahmin went to school. So see the class demarcation. But we had to go out and work in the fields morning till night from sowing to harvest time. So I had no time to learn this Farangi language you speak. Even little fellows in your country probably speak the Farangi language. Oh, but here only learned men and officers know Farangi. Okay. The foreigner laughed heartily at whatever he was mumbling on, and he took another cigarette and offered it to Munni, who now smoked with ease, deciding to stay on if the fellow was going to be so good as to keep up his cigarette supply. And now the American started talking again. I could give a sales talk for this better than anyone's. This is a marvelous combination of yellow and indigo, though faded now. How do you people of this country achieve these flaming colors? Munni, now assured that the subject was still the horse and not the dead body, said, this is our guardian, this horse is our guardian. It means, so allusion to religion and faith and religious history. This is our guardian. It means death to our adversaries. At the end of Kali Yoga, this world and all other worlds will be destroyed and Redeemer will come in the shape of a horse called Kalki. This horse will come to life and gallop and trample down old bed men. Oh, okay. While the collector or this American man was brooding on his pleasant vision of taking the statue, the foreigner also utilized the pause of Munni's banter to say, I show you this will have the best home in USA. I'll push away the bookcase. You know, I love books and a member of 5 book clubs, and the choice and bonus volumes really mount up to pile in our living room as high as this horse itself. But they'll have to go. Ruth may disapprove, but I'll convince her. The TV may have to be shifted too. We can't have everything in the living room. Ruth will probably say, what about when we have a party? I'm going to keep him right in the middle of the room, and I don't see how that can interfere with the party. We'll stand around him and have our drinks. look at the vision. Look at what a horse symbolizes for Munni and what horse symbolizes for the American. Munni continued his description of the end of the world, a pundit discourse at the temple once, how the oceans are going to close over the earth in a huge wave. So he's going on about the religious stories, right? And the tales that he had heard growing up. And he says this horse will grow bigger than the biggest wave and carry on its back only the good people and kick into the floods the evil ones. Plenty of them about. The foreigner now understood by the tone that he was being asked. He said, and then he said, "Oh, how am I transporting it? I can push the seat back and make room in the rear. That van can take an elephant," waving precisely at the back of the seat. Oh, Munni was hovering on his visions of avatars, and the man is talking what he thinks he is asking for. "Oh, I'm not a millionaire, but a modest businessman. My trade is coffee." Amidst all this wilderness of obscure sound, Munni got the word coffee and said, "If you want to drink coffee, try further up in the next town. They have Friday market, and there they open coffee hotels. So I learn from passers-by. Don't think I wonder about. I go nowhere and look for nothing." So that's how it went. Then Munni was now talking about his past and the god Vishnu. Yes, and he's talking about these things, goddess Lakshmi, and he's going on and on while the foreigner keeps saying, "I repeat, I'm not a millionaire. Ours is a modest business. After all, we can't afford to buy more than 60 minutes. Munni was intoxicated by the memory of his theatrical days, and he is remembering his school days theatrical participation and his childhood memories, and he was alluding to all the gods. It was funny, it was humorous just to listen to them talking in a different language and trying to think and communicate what they wanted to, but not understanding a word. So we see a lot of humor. Now then the foreigner says, "Tell me, will you accept 100 rupees for the horse? I'd love to take the whiskered soldier also, but I have no space for him this year. Ruth can go by air if she likes, but I'll go with the horse and keep him in my cabin by sea." And he smiled at the picture of himself voyaging across the seas, hugging this horse. "I'll have to pad it with straw so that it doesn't break. When we played Ramayana, they dressed me as Sita." Now Munni is going on about his childhood memories, which he took pride in, and so is the American, taking a lot of pride in his social status in America, in New York. So now Munni goes on and asks, "Do you know Mahabharata? Krishna was the 8th avatar of Vishnu, etc., etc." Now the stranger was completely mystified by this gesture, because for the first time he said, "I really wonder what you're saying, because your answer is crucial. We have come to the point when we should be ready to talk business." Oh God. And then he goes on, "Lend me a hand and I can lift off the horse from its pedestal after picking out the cement at the joints. We can do anything if we have a basis of understanding." Oh, at this stage, the mutual mystification was complete, and there was no need even to carry on a guessing game at the meaning of words. The old man chatted away in a spirit of conversational exchange. Oh, all right. And then what does the foreigner say? Okay, in answer to all the questions, the red man dashed his hand into his pocket. Whatever he thought Munni was asking, who was talking about his faith and all the stories of the Krishnas and the Vishnus. And he brought forth his wallet in order to take immediate advantage of the bearish trend in the market. He flourished 100 rupee currency note, and asked, "Well, this is what I meant." The old man now realized that some financial element was entering their talk. He understood that he's waving the money, so he wants to pay me for something. He knew 5 and 10 by the colors, but he did not know what this was. The red What was this man flourishing the note for? And then, oh, he said, I don't have change for this. You have to go to the money lender. I've never seen this currency note. But the foreigner is not understanding. And then what happens is, and as this guy was talking, the foreigner followed his look and decided that it would be a sound policy to show an interest in the old man's pets, because Munni was gesturing and indicating towards his goats, right? And it's funny, the foreigner followed his look and decided that it would be a sound thing to do to show an interest in the old man's pets. He went up casually to them and stroked their backs with every show of courteous attention. Now the truth dawned on the old man. His dream of a lifetime was about to realize. He understood that Red Man was actually making an offer for the goats. Wow! He could not believe his luck. He had often dreamed how he would put up a thatched roof here, spread a gunny sack out on the ground and display fried nuts, colored sweets and green coconut for the thirsty and famished wayfarers on the highway. Oh my God! While he was reflecting this, the Red Man shook his hand and left on his palm 100 rupees in tens. Now, it is all for you, or you may share it if you have the partner. So he gave him the change of 100 rupees. The old man pointed at the station wagon and asked, "Are you carrying them off in that?" "Yes, of course," said the other, understanding the transportation part of it. "Of what?" "No." The old man said, "This will be their first ride in a motor car. Carry them off after I get out of sight, otherwise they'll never follow." The simplicity, the narrow horizon. I mean, he's talking about all that he knows. He wants to impress the foreigner, and he can't think beyond that the money could be for something else, right? And then that's a small world. And he says, "I must be gone to, okay, let's see, he'll never follow you, but only me when I'm traveling on the path to Yamaloka." He laughed at his own joke, brought his palms together in a salute, turned around and went off, and was soon out of sight beyond a clump of thicket. The Red Man looked at the goats, gazing peacefully, perched on the pedestal of the horse. He must be gone to fetch some help, the foreigner thought, I suppose, and settled down to wait. And suddenly, when a truck came downhill, he stopped it and got the help of a couple of men to detach the horse from its pedestal and place it in the station wagon. He gave them 5 rupees each, and for a further payment, they siphoned off gas from the truck and helped him to start his engine. How hospitable and how friendly we are, the Asians, right? Munni hurried homeward with the cash securely tucked away at his waist in his dhoti. He shut the street door and stole up softly to his wife as she squatted before the lit oven, wondering if by a miracle food would drop from the sky. She had not been able to manage food, and she knew he would be hungry. Munni displayed his fortune for the day. She snatched the notes from him, right, and counted them by the glow of the fire and cried, 100 rupees! How did you come by it? Have you been stealing? I have sold the goats to a red-faced man. He was absolute crazy to have them, gave me all his money and carried them off in his motor car. Hardly had these words left his lips when they heard bleating outside. She opened the door and saw the 2 goats at her door. Hey there, she said, what's the meaning of all this? He muttered a great curse and seized one of the goats by its ears and shouted, where is that man? Don't you know you are his? Why did you come back? The goat only wriggled in his grip. He asked the same question. The goat shook itself off. His wife glared at him and declared, if you have thieves, the police will come tonight and break your bones. Don't involve me. I'll go away to my parents. Such a small world, and they had been so unfortunate, unlucky, that they could not think that they could land up with 100 rupees. And little did they know that the precious good horse was taken away. So what a contrast between the life of an American. He's just visiting, and just for as a he's a collector. He wants to collect this horse, while Munni is waiting for Kali Yog to end, and then this horse will trample over all the evil men, and he'll get his revenge, isn't it? So how did you like the story? I thought it was really amazing, you know. And do you realize we mostly try to understand and demystify in a meaning, or translate or interpret that we want to understand, isn't it? So it's interesting how Munni interpreted him and how the guy interpreted him. And they both, at the end, they both benefited from each other, and they it's a happy ending, isn't it? It's amazing, isn't it? Okay, lovely to see you guys. I hope you enjoyed the story. Well, see you next time, same time and same day. Bye-bye. Oh.